Ever get the feeling like you're right on the edge of something big? Like you could almost reach out and touch the future, but it's just...
Yeah.
That's just out of reach.
It's a tantalizing feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Full of possibility and a little bit of fear, too.
Exactly. And that's exactly the vibe I got when I was diving into this episode's source material, which is this chilling story called The Mirror's Edge. It's from this podcast, Shadow and Enigma Hunters.
And what perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
With Halloween right around the corner.
Speaking of things that go bump in the night.
Okay, so everyone listening, buckle up, because today's deep dive is all about exploring the Mirror's Edge and its themes of fate, free will, and what happens when, our deepest desires get a little out of control.
All too much power, right? Right. So the story introduces us to Clara. She's a very talented artist, but she's feeling stuck. Like she's got all this potential, but she's afraid of, ending up ordinary.
Which, let's be honest, that's a fear a lot of us can relate to, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the mirror comes in, right?
The magic mirror.
Yes. Clara stumbles upon this antique mirror, and it promises to show her glimpses of her future.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How often do we seek those external solutions, like a magical mirror, to address what are essentially internal struggles?
It's like we're wired for that quick fix,
Exactly. And the story really digs into that human tendency. Because first, the mirror, it shows Clara everything she thinks she wants, a successful art exhibit, a passionate love affair, you name it.
Who wouldn't want to see that, right?
Right. But that's where things get a little murky, don't you think? Because are these visions actual glimpses of what's to come, or are they just reflections of what Clara wants to see?
It's like that confirmation bias thing, right?
Precisely. Confirmation bias, that tendency we all have to gravitate toward information that confirms our existing beliefs. Even if it's not, entirely accurate.
It's like when you're scrolling through your social media feed and you only like posts that agree with you, right?
Exactly. We all do it. And in Clara's case, the mirror, it kind of preys on this very human tendency. But the visions, they start to take a dark turn. They get increasingly unsettling, and they even start to influence her artwork in the real world.
Yeah, it's not just seeing the future anymore. It's like it's bleeding into her present. And that's where I started to get a little uneasy.
And that's where the true danger of foreknowledge, even when it's disguised as something magical or alluring, becomes really apparent. There's this fascinating psychological principle at play here called the self-fulfilling prophecy. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, it means that simply believing in a predicted outcome can actually influence our actions and shape our reality in a way that makes that outcome more likely to occur.
It's like the mirror itself is whispering a twisted kind of destiny in her ear.
Right. It's as if by seeing those negative outcomes, Clara starts to subconsciously make choices that lead her down that path.
And speaking of destiny, the story mentions that the mirror has this whole legend surrounding its creation. Apparently it was made by an alchemist who was obsessed with unlocking the secrets of time and fate.
Oh, I love that. A classic deal with the devil scenario.
Right. Total classic. And it just makes you wonder, would you want to know your future, even if it meant potentially changing it for the worse?
Or even scarier, becoming a prisoner to that knowledge.
Ooh, good point. It really makes you think about all those choices we make every day. Are we really in control, or are we just playing a part in a story that's already been written? It's kind of like that saying, right? Be careful what you wish for.
Because you just might get it.
Exactly. But here's the thing. This is where Clara's story takes a turn. She starts to fight back against the mirror.
Really?
Yeah, she does.
That's a huge turning point in this story. It really speaks to the whole idea of us not being controlled by fate, that we have a choice in how things play out.
It's like realizing you're not actually stuck on a roller coaster, You can get off if you want to.
Yeah.
But are you brave enough to face whatever's waiting at the top of the next climb?
Ooh, good one. And as we all know, those choices, they come with consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Which the story doesn't shy away from at all. So Clara confronts the mirror head on.
Gutsy move.
Right. And as she does, there's this blinding flash of light, and then suddenly she's somewhere else entirely.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a new vision or anything. It's like she's in a completely different reality.
Whoa.
She finds herself surrounded by all these shattered reflections. But it's not just broken glass. It's like she's trapped inside the distortion.
It's like she's part of the mirror now.
Almost. And here's the really creepy part. She can still feel the weight of all her past choices, like they're watching her, judging her.
Now that would mess you up.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a powerful image, the thought of being haunted by your own past decisions. It makes you think about regret, the paths we didn't take and how those choices just keep shaping us whether we like it or not.
Trying to outrun your own shadow.
Yes, exactly. But even with that feeling of being haunted, there's also this glimmer of hope.
You think so?
I do. Because even though it might have landed her in a whole new world of chaos, Clara chose to fight back. She chose to break free from the mirror's control.
There's power in that.
There is. But, and I think this is really clever of the writer, the story never really gives us a clear-cut answer. Did she actually escape? Or did she just trade one kind of prison for another?
It's the question we're left with.
It is. It reminds me of those optical illusions where you can see two completely different images depending on how you look at it.
Oh, I love those.
Right. It all comes down to perspective. And that's what I think is so brilliant about The Mirror's Edge. It doesn't give us any easy answers when it comes to fate versus free will. Instead, it's this ongoing dance, this push and pull between the choices we make and, maybe those forces beyond our control.
So we've got Clara, this artist who just wants a peek at her future and ends up, lost in this shattered reflection of her own making.
It's like a cautionary tale, isn't it? Be careful what you wish for.
Seriously. But what I think is so fascinating about The Mirror's Edge is how it takes this simple idea, a magic mirror, and uses it to explore these really deep themes.
It really does. I mean, we've all felt that pull towards the unknown, that desire to peek behind the curtain, to have some control over what tomorrow brings, right?
Totally. But what if, and this is what I kept thinking about, what if that desire, that need to know, what if it actually blinds us to what's right in front of us?
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It's like we're so busy chasing after some perfect future that we completely miss out on the journey, all the messy, unexpected stuff that makes life interesting.
Exactly. And I think the story makes it clear that those so-called easy answers, they often come with a pretty hefty price tag.
No doubt. Clara's search for knowledge, for control, it backfires in a big way. And she ends up having to face the consequences of her choices in this place where reality and illusion are totally blurred.
It's like the real mirror wasn't the antique one at all, right? It was the reflection of her own deepest fears and desires all along.
Wow, yeah. And that actually makes me wonder, what are the mirrors we all encounter in our own lives? The ones we might not even realize are shaping our choices.
That's a great question. Are we letting our worries about the future dictate what we do today? Are we so focused on a single outcome that we miss other possibilities, other paths we could be taking?
Right. It's like we can get so fixated on a specific reflection that we don't even see what else is around us. And I think that's what this story really highlights, the power of those internal narratives, those deeply held beliefs and desires that we all carry around. They can act as mirrors, for better or for worse, influencing how we see ourselves in the world.
It's kind of empowering when you think about it, but also a little terrifying, right?
Totally. It's both. But I think the ultimate message of the story is that real freedom, it doesn't come from knowing the future. It comes from embracing the unknown, from being open to the journey and all its twists and turns, and maybe, just maybe, learning to trust ourselves a little bit more along the way.
Well said. And on that note, I want to give a huge thank you to Shadow and Enigma Hunters for such a thought-provoking story, especially with Halloween right around the corner. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of The Mirror's Edge. It's been a wild ride.
It has.
Remember, sometimes the most important reflections are the ones we find within. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and keep that curiosity alive.